This is Let's Talk About Magnum PI, the podcast from fans for fans of Magnum PI.
Hi.
So we're starting. First episode of Let's Talk About Magnum PI. Yay!
Welcome.
Yeah, welcome to the show. First topic. The people have spoken. First topic's going to be why we love Magnum PI.
I feel like we could do an extensive list on that.
I mean, who better to ask than the fans, right?
Of course, yeah.
That should be us. Or us and everybody else. So, why do you love Magnum PI?
Well, the action, number one, the characters, number two, and all the, finer details of the relationships. That's just, my overall broad love for it. At least the beginning. I mean, there's obviously a million other reasons why, but those are my top three. What about you?
Those are good top three. The action's nice. The stories are nice if we don't, fuck them up. The characters, they're top tier, I think, as well as the relationships. And, of course, a major factor for me, Hawaii.
Of course. Who could forget Hawaii?
Who could forget Hawaii, right? Oh, it's just a beautiful place. But I think it would work without Hawaii, too. It's just the icing on the cake.
It really is. I mean, which one of us fans wouldn't want to be sitting on a beach in Hawaii or driving the red Ferrari through Hawaii? Let's be honest here.
I think there's some speed limits, but yes. I prefer places without speed limit. But yeah, that's a nice convertible right there.
For sure. I mean, the cars on its own are another factor of the show, of course.
The Porsche.
Oh my gosh.
Oh.
And the Range Rover, I don't know. I know people really love the Porsche and the Ferrari, but my personal favorite, I know I'm going to sound crazy right now, but I love the Range Rover. I don't know why. It's so elegant and incognito. To me, it's just the perfect car.
For sure, to this day, I don't get why they use this car more for, observing and tailing people, because it's been pretty often said that, the red Ferrari isn't inconspicuous at all.
No. And I also noticed this season that they've been using the Range Rover a lot more than the Ferrari. This season in particular has had a lot more Range Rover in it.
Yeah. Season 3 has a lot more of that. Maybe they caught on to the fact that the red Ferrari is not inconspicuous.
I mean, Higgins has only said it, I don't know, about 7 times, and so has Katsumoto, but,
From
Magnum
day
ever listen
one?
to them?
Nah. I mean, I can't blame him. It's a cool car. It's a really cool car. Yeah, who wouldn't? So, yeah. Imagine just taking this car down the Poly Highway.
Or the H1 and all that.
Oh. Yeah.
Oh, just to be there, just to have the opportunity to go there.
Yeah, and none of us does at the moment.
No. I think it's a hard reality that it'll be quite a while before most people can get there, let's be honest.
Yeah, so we have to live through them.
Yep. I mean, that's another thing. I've just loved that hour on, Friday nights to just not to be, somewhere else,
Yeah.
Especially because, where I'm from, it's really cold in the winter. We get, to minus 30 Celsius. So to have, an hour in the sun in the middle of that every Friday, it's pretty nice.
Yeah, I have some friends in Hawaii, and we've been talking in the winter when we had snow out here, and it was minus, I think, around your corner. And they were like, oh my god, it's only 50. We're so cold. I'm like, I would run around in a t-shirt if I was in Hawaii right now.
So would I.
Not cold.
It's you want cold, you have to come to where we are.
Right? But on the other hand, it's the temperature they're used to. So for them, it's cold.
Yeah.
For us,
it's really warm.
For us, that would be paradise.
Yeah, any time of the year for that, I would take.
Oh yeah, and it's coming around the perfect time of the year too. It's airing around winter-ish, colder season, so we get to have mental vacations.
Yeah,
So
and we need it. We definitely need it.
we needed it this year
For sure.
after everything. I do love that they brought up the pandemic in past tense.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that actually earlier, about how it's one of the few shows that didn't incorporate it like full scale, having the characters wearing masks and everything, and how
Yeah.
I feel like that was such a bonus for them.
Oh yes,
Because
oh yes.
they could do it sort of as normal. Like, it didn't feel weird. It felt natural.
Yeah, we weren't transported into our reality. We were transported into the future, where everything's hopefully better soon.
Yeah. And I liked it also because they acknowledged that it did happen and that like it was part of the thing, so it wasn't like they completely blew it off. So it's still like it existed, they acknowledged it, but they didn't overuse it, which I thought was wonderful.
They also acknowledge the struggles that people are facing, especially the restaurateurs right now. It's like, over here, nothing's open. They're still struggling. So it's good to hear it, but it's also good to hear that Rick's pulling himself out of there. And I hope a lot of people take a little bit of hope from that.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's another thing. Like, the show is so much about hope. You know, even in like the sadder. I don't want to use the word darker moments because it's not really a dark show, but in its like darker moments, it still has that element of hope to it, I find.
Yes, it does. It totally does. And the element of hope is really something that is needed, especially right now.
Mm-hmm. And also it ties into like the idea of Ohana, right?
Oh,
and like the hope and Ohana, I find go like hand in hand.
Yeah,
in Magnum, sure.
I think the Ohana aspect is one of the aspect that draws a lot of people in, or well, it keeps them around. It doesn't necessarily draw them in because that's certainly the action, but the Ohana aspect, the relationship, the love between the characters is what keeps people around. Like, there's not a lot of shows where characters tell each other that they love them. Like,
so true.
Episode 1, Season 3, we have our dear TC tell Hickey he loves him, and nobody's even questioning, oh, is this romantic? No, it's just they're friends, they love each other.
Exactly, and that's another thing, like, the one other aspect that I love is that even, like, if you just take, like, Magnum and Higgins, and you remove the romantic idea, I still feel like it's the driving force, like, behind the show. Like, a lot of people, even if they're not, like, shippers of Magnum and Higgins, they can still say that like their relationship is something that they value and that they like, and it's one of the reasons why they watch the show. Yeah, absolutely. Even if their relationship won't become romantic, which we don't know if it will or will not, it's this progressive becoming friends, becoming more integral to each other's lives that's keeping people watching and keeping people on their toes. And I have to give it to the writers, because I feel like every season that we've had, the relationship between Magnum and Higgins has sort of gone up like a notch. Like in season 1, they were sort of just like acquaintances. She would help him a little bit. Then season 2, they became like business partners and friends, like beginning of a friendship. And then season 3, you know, they're full on, as she said, best friends. Yeah. Right? Yeah, so it's like, if they continue on that trend, we'll see if they end up together romantically or not.
Yeah, we'll see. I feel like it depends on how long the show sticks around.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and, you know, if we think about, like, some interviews that Jay has said about, you know, he said it in multiple interviews, that when he sees that they're together, that he believes it's the end of the show. I mean, does he mean that that's, like, what he pictures the ending of the show being? Or does that mean, like, he thinks the show's over when it happens, right?
Yeah, I personally, for me, it's the kind of thing where we have seen previous shows where there's similar kind of ships, and they got together at the very end, because there's always an element that you lose when you put them together, like this will they won't they element. That's really valuable, and if you lose it, well, you might actually lose people watching. Not everybody, because we have shippers around that would just enjoy,
of course,
5 seasons of them being together. There's also other people who would not enjoy that.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be the thing for the writers if they do choose to put them together. It's going to be, how do they maintain that balance of, like, yes, they're together, but they still have to stay Magnum and Higgins. Like, they still have to have that bickering. They still have to have that like tension almost.
And there has to be an interesting element about their relationship still, because it's so integral to the show.
Mm-hmm. It is, for sure.
I feel like, yeah, I'm pretty sure if it wasn't for their progression, for their friction, for their bickering, the show would lose a lot of its heart. Not all of it, actually, but a lot of it.
Yeah, and I feel like that is something that if the writers do put them together, they will keep that, hopefully. You know? Hopefully they know that that's so integral to the show. And I believe that they do. You know? I believe that they understand, like, what's sort of hitting home with the fans and what's not hitting home so much with the fans.
I mean, they're very vocal about what's hitting home. I'm pretty sure they're very aware of the fact that the relationship between Higgins and Magnum, even just the friendship, is what's hitting home really good. Yeah. And as well as our boys.
Yeah. Our boys.
Yeah. I just love these guys. Their friendship is... I feel like it's something rare on TV, because they're not just, visibly good friends, but they're very open towards each other. Like, we've seen this season, or was it last season? No, it was this season. With Rick, with him expressing the stress about having left the Marines, and him expressing the fact that he hasn't expressed that to his friends before. That's some kind of openness that you don't often see on TV. At least I don't often see on TV. Maybe there's stuff around that I haven't gotten into yet, but I haven't seen that a lot. And that's something, these vulnerability that they have towards each other, and the fact that they acknowledged that they can be vulnerable with each other, that's something that's really fucking rare and valuable.
It is. And I love that it's like all of them. Like, it's not just like one or two characters. Like, I think that we can go back and think of at least one moment for every single character where they've shown that vulnerability, and where the other members of the group have been supportive. Like, there hasn't been a single time that someone's been vulnerable and the group hasn't been like, it's okay, we still love you, we support you with whatever you do, we understand what you're going through, let us help you support you.
Yeah, it's something that I really love about how they brought Higgins in, because initially we had this very closed off woman, and as they kind of adopted her,
she's becoming so much more open.
Yeah, they encouraged her to become more open, and they extended the vulnerability and trust that they had towards each other to her. Like, they just opened the family up to get another member.
Yeah, and I think that, like, one moment as soon as you said that, like, that immediately comes to mind is in the first season, in Day of the Viper, when Ian comes back and everything, and she says to Magnum, about all those favors that I've been doing for you, and he goes, you don't even need to ask. Whatever you need, I'll help you. And it just shows, like, that she trusts him so much, and that he's willing to do anything for his friends, and that she's now a part of that.
Yeah, that was one of these episodes that it became very striking that they're now Ohana, even though they probably wouldn't define it as that at that point, but they certainly were.
They definitely were, yeah.
Same thing, like, it went both ways that we saw in The Day the Past Came Back, when our dear Magnum needed someone, and, well, he didn't even have to ask, really. He just got them.
Yeah, and even when they all knew that, like, it could mean the end of their lives, essentially, for, you know, maybe going to jail, maybe getting hurt, whatever. And they just, again, no hesitation. Like, this is my family, I'm gonna do whatever it takes to protect them.
We saw the same thing this season, too. They could have risked going to jail over freeing Higgins.
Yeah. And even Katsumoto was like, you need to go, you know? And
yeah.
That was just... To me, that I loved that whole ending scene.
Oh, yes, me too. I mean, Katsumoto's come really far, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's gone from, I have to basically babysit this child so that he doesn't ruin anything on my island, to he's now my friend, and I don't want anything to happen to him.
Yeah. Again, finale showed that really well, where he basically told the feds that they're with us. You don't mess with them, please. They're with us. Tell them everything.
Yeah, it's like, you need, like, you're in my house now, and these are my people.
Yes.
Yeah, so, that was amazing.
I loved that. I cheered so hard.
There was so many moments over this season where we can honestly say that we had tears.
Oh, yeah. Legitimate tears. Oh.
So many.
So many. One of them particularly comes to mind in the episode where we lose Ice.
Oh, Ice Pick, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I cried.
The emotion on Rick. Oh, Rick.
That was a stellar performance from Zach, wasn't it?
It really was. I have to say, I mean, they've all had amazing performances over the last 3 seasons, but in particular this season. But that, to me, was Zach's moment to shine. I found that over the 3 seasons, that was his scene. Like, if there was one scene that someone's going to write home about, it's going to be that one, in my mind.
Yeah, runner-up is certainly Spice Girls from episode 1.
Oh my gosh, how could I forget about Spice Girls?
But yeah, the acting, I mean, that has to be said too, the acting. If we had less talented actors, certainly wouldn't draw us in as much. That's something that we certainly love, and they're not exactly hard on the eyes either.
No. Definitely not. And they're just cast. Like, they're cast so well, the characters.
Oh, yes.
Oh, gosh. I mean, I don't know if you've seen the any of the bonus features from, I think it's the season 2 DVD, actually, where they're talking about, like, what drew them to cast these particular actors. And it's just like, when it was with Steven, I think the producer said as soon as Steven walked into the room, they knew that he had to be TC. Like, the way that he, like, as soon as he opened his mouth and as soon as he started talking, they're like, that's our TC. We're hiring him. And that was, like, it for them.
I have not seen that.
Yeah,
basically due to the fact that the DVD has not been available for the major part of last year. It's fairly new here.
Oh, really?
Really?
Oh, okay. Wow. Yeah, it's been out for about, I would say, I think since about September. Maybe a little bit before here.
Yeah, you can usually, in Europe, you can usually add about 6 months.
Wow.
Until we release DVDs for TV shows. If it's like movies, then we get it fairly immediately, but TV shows, A, we get them way later, and B, the DVDs get released way later. For example, did you know season 3 is currently airing here?
I actually did know that. That's pretty far. What episode are you guys on?
That's the question of the day. I don't know. I forgot to watch it last night, mainly because I'm in Germany. So we have voice actors doing the acting, and I'm sorry, but it's really hard to watch an episode of a show that you love where the only character that sounds mildly grown up is Ethan Shaw.
Oh,
I have
boy.
nothing against it. Hands down, the best voice actor at the moment, but I just can't take Magnum's voice actor seriously because I grew up with that guy voicing anime.
And he's not Jay Hernandez, let's be honest here.
Certainly not Jay Hernandez, no.
And that's it. That's the thing. Like, and I'm so lucky because I'm in Canada, right? So I get it pretty much that everything lines up pretty well with the U.S. And so I get to watch it like Friday nights at 9. And that's one thing that I'm very thankful for is that, it is in my native language and it is not preempted or anything because we're so close to the US essentially. So I've never had that like voice acting, like it's always been Jay and Perdita and Zach and Steven and all that. So for me, I can't imagine it any other way.
Oh, it's an adventure sometimes. Thank goodness for iTunes and Amazon Prime where you can buy it depending on the licenses, but I can buy it really soon after.
Okay, that's good.
But then there's the voice acting. The sister show Hawai'i 5-0. I legitimately started watching it in German, and right now I have a hard time finding season 1 to 4 in English. And I kind of got used to the voice actors, and in my head, English and German blurs anyway, but yeah, voice actors are something else. On the sister show, we had a main character from later seasons be voiced by the same main character from all the seasons, namely Jerry.
Okay, yeah.
Dear Jerry was initially voiced by the same guy that voiced Danny.
Oh gosh, that must have been... I can't even picture that. I mean, as somebody who watched 5-0 from the beginning, I cannot picture those two voices sounding exactly the same.
They didn't sound exactly the same. The voice actor did a good job in trying to sound differently, but still the same guy.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, it can be worse. There was legitimately a show where they had two main characters voiced by the same guy, or by two guys that sound exactly alike. I got confused all the time.
Yeah, I can't imagine watching TV that way. Like, to me, it would take out so much of the magic that is, like, television, and the talent of, like, the initial actors, too, sort of gets masked by, dubbing, I find.
Yes, Jay Hernandez is a prime example for that. Like, the cheekiness, like, how can anybody deal with losing the cheekiness in Magnum's voice?
It's so his character. That's like one of his character traits, I would say, is that cheekiness and that like boyishness to him.
Yeah. He's perpetually a child.
And hence why Higgins called him a man-child.
Yeah. But he's also very unapologetically a child, which is something that I personally love about him.
Yeah, he's like, I am me and I will do what needs to be done, and I'm okay with it.
And I won't take everything so seriously, because I feel like a lot of people are taking a lot of stuff really seriously, and it's so refreshing not to have someone take everything seriously. Sometimes you just have to make light of a situation and get through it.
And I feel like that is now rubbing off onto Higgins. You know, like, she's starting to let things go a little bit more.
Yes, certainly. He's having a good influence on her.
Yeah, and it's creating so much character development, which is wonderful, because, again, in order for a show to survive, the characters need to develop. They can't just stay exactly the way that they are.
Yeah, it's actually one of the main things that drives not only a show, but also a movie, and we've seen some movies fail due to lack of character development, and, well, we certainly can't say that Magnum has a lack of character development.
Definitely not. They've all grown, every single one of them.
Yeah, and I'm really happy to see that. I mean, wouldn't it be boring if everybody just stayed the same?
Oh god, yeah. There wouldn't be a show.
Even Jin, a character who could legitimately get away with not changing, not development, even he's developing, even he's developing.
It's true, even from his like few appearances that Bobby Lee has had.
Yes.
It's, he has grown obviously from the day that we met him in front of Robin's Nest with the stealing of the phones to now having his quote unquote legitimate business and doing the right thing for that woman.
And really wanting to go legitimate with opening a laundromat in the finale. Like, wow.
Yeah, that and that's just again testament to great writing, because they're taking these guest stars and these guests, like these quote unquote minor characters, and they're not treating them like minor characters. They're still there enough that you remember them. Like, you remember their first episode when they first came, and you remember certain lines that they've said, which isn't always the case in TV shows with those kind of characters. Like Jin, some other shows, I mean, they might pop up here and there, but you wouldn't remember anything that happened the first time that they were on the show.
That's true. I particularly am one of these people. I have the attention span of a goldfish sometimes. If there wasn't a memorable thing for these characters, if they weren't treated like, you're now the most important character in the scene that's about you, then yeah, there would be a lot less remembering of characters for me. But
they have to own it.
Yeah, they own it, and they have this writing style where in a scene, all of the characters are important to them, which is lovely.
Mm-hmm. It's truly an ensemble cast. Like, yes, Jay is the lead. He's Magnum. He's, essentially the show's about him, but it's not about him in a way, Like, it's equally as much about Higgins, and it's equally as much about Rick TC. Like, they might not have as much screen time, but you still feel like it's about them as well.
Yeah, it's about the team, and without the team, they would lose so much. Same for...
Go on.
Thank you. Same for Arakumu. She's not there often. Same for Shami. Not there often, but we would miss them if they were gone for good.
Yeah,
they get away with not having them around for an episode. We would so miss them.
Yeah, oh my gosh, could you imagine a Robin's Nest without Kumu?
Hell no.
Like, you can't. It doesn't exist, right? Like, I mean, I can't picture, like, a Higgins sitting in her office trying to figure out something on the estate and not having Kumu there to be like, oh yeah, well, like, in Hawaiian culture. And I just, exactly like you said, she's not there often, but she has such a big impact when she is there.
Yes. She's kind of the mama of the Ohana, with her wisdom being imposed on these characters. Well, not imposed, but she's offering her wisdom, and, well, they're really protective of her, aren't they?
Yeah, she is the mama, and they, like, especially that episode where she had to go to jail for stealing that artifact, and they were like, Kumu, like, you can't go to jail. And she's like, I don't need you to protect me. Like, I'm all good. And they still, like, went to bat for her and still were like, you cannot go to jail. Like, we're not letting this happen.
That reminds me, there was a very, very visual moment where it was kind of shown that she's the mama of the group with RTC and the cookies and the milk.
Oh my gosh, yes.
So, like, they were full on shoving it in our face, basically, but it worked. It really worked.
It really worked. And I think that, like, it's supposed to be that stereotypical, like, obviously, she's the older person and she's the mother figure, just, solely because of her job on the estate, but they make it like obvious without making it stereotypical, I find.
Yes. For sure. There's so much we can just say about this show.
I know it's I mean, and that's what this podcast is going to be for, right?
Yes, not just like about the show.
It's there for like the fans to have a voice and just talk about it.
Yeah, and immerse themselves in the show, even if it's off air right now, because that hiatus feels really bleak.
It's only been a week.
It's only been a week, but it's not exactly a kind of situation where you can take a week of hiatus easily.
No, it's gonna be a long one.
Yeah.
I'm just hoping it'll premiere in September and that we won't be waiting till December again.
Even the last one was hell. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and it was also like the last hiatus was just like not knowing anything, and like all the news articles were saying like, there's no film production, so they don't know when they're gonna start, and yada yada yada.
Yeah.
At least now they seem to know what they're doing on set, so I'm really hoping for a September release.
Yeah, and Hawaii. I feel like Hawaii have really got it together with the pandemic. Like what I hear from over there, they have their system. Everybody knows what they're doing, and they got it together over there, unlike other places.
Do. I mean, I think that they are like extremely lucky too to have it all together.
Yeah.
And let's just hope they can keep it together.
Like I remember, I was saying over here for a long time that they just should just introduce a tier system. By that time, I was saying that Hawaii already had that for like months.
We sort of have a tier system here, and it's odd because like some of our cities are like on one tier, and then like the next town over or like the next city over will be at a different tier. So it's very confusing about what you can do like in what city and what's considered open. And we have a curfew.
Ah, yeah, we too.
Yeah, and it's like, sometimes like in parts of where I'm from, like it's at 8:30 the curfew. Sometimes it's at 9:30, and they keep changing it. So it's like, oh my gosh.
I mean, there's always a solution for that. Just watch Magnum PI.
Exactly. And
stay home and watch Magnum.
Take your mind off of it for an hour. Or two if you're watching reruns.
Yeah, I mean, right now, there's nothing but reruns.
Right?
We have 3 seasons of wonderful content to watch. And we have sister shows that you could respond to.
Yes.
I mean, one of the sister shows is offering you 10 seasons, and the other one's offering you 5 seasons. You've got time to watch all of that.
Definitely, and especially take advantage of the hiatus, and forget about the fact that it's COVID and you should be home. Just in general, if it was a regular year with a hiatus and you still needed something to watch, the sister shows are definitely a very good option.
Or another option is just listen to this.
Yeah.
Oh well, a brand new option.
It's gonna be a good one.
I hope, and I hope other people will enjoy it as much as I'm enjoying it recording it with you.
I'm having a great time.
Wonderful. So, what else do we love about Magnum?
Ooh.
We had the cars, we had the characters, we had the relationships, we had the island. There has to be more.
There has to be more. There's no way that we've already exhausted our list.
Oh, yes. There's no way we exhausted that list. You're right. Topics, actually. The topics that we're using or seeing, topics such as PTSD, survivor's guilt, and so on, that's ballsy, in my eyes at least.
Yeah, I think it is too. And one of the articles that got written in Canada, and I think also it was in the States as well, when that episode about PTSD, when he went missing and Magnum went to go find the soldier and everything, he actually got recognized as like the performance of the week for that particular episode because of how powerful that topic was.
Yeah.
And it truly was. That was a very powerful episode.
Yeah. This brings me back to one of the sister shows. I think Magnum handled the PTSD topic slightly better than Hawai'i Five-0 did. Slightly.
I will agree with you on that.
Because I love Hawai'i Five-0. It's one of my favorite shows. I'm actually watching at a replica batch of Five-0 right now. Looking at, not watching it. Sorry. But they alluded to it. They alluded to one of the main characters having it, namely Steve, but they never got into it. They never used this to their advantage. They never opened the topic up as bravely as Magnum did, whereas Magnum was just, we had one episode and we made the best of it.
And I think even if we had that, that main episode, I mean, I can think of, even back right in the pilot, when Nuzo was killed and he's driving the Ferrari thinking about everything that Nuzo did, like that was a bit of his PTSD as well. Like it brought him straight back to the camp.
Yeah, and we also had the wonderful flash. Well, it wasn't flashbacks. The wonderful dreams and they weren't wonderful either. The dreams that he had about the white van.
Oh yes, the white SUV shootout scene in his dreams. Yes. Which could potentially have been caused by PTSD.
Or heightened.
Very true.
Yeah. And of course, Shammy.
Oh, of course.
Our very own Shammy, from his first appearance to, well, the last major arc that he had, namely being the one where he doesn't want to be a helicopter pilot, or maybe he will become one. That is also PTSD on his part. That's also him worrying about experiencing something that he experienced again before. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I think we could even also, on that topic, we could also relate it to Rick, in his, last season when Ice asked him for that favor, and then he was telling the story about how he almost re-enlisted.
Yeah.
Like, in a way, I feel like he was doing that to maybe overcome his PTSD, to, like, if, he thought that if he could go back, because it was the only thing that he knew, that maybe he could, like, change his experience.
Interesting question from that we can ask ourselves right now is, does Higgins have it?
I was wondering that as well, and I think part of me thinks that yes, and especially with Richard's death and everything that surrounded it, even before the whole revelation about Ian, I feel like yes, she would have been very traumatized simply by that. And again, we know very little about her time at MI6, and we haven't had that moment of her waking up in the middle of the night, screaming or sweating or anything like that we've seen from quite a few of the characters. But that doesn't mean that it hasn't happened. And that's what I'm curious to see, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, is could they potentially tie that in to her being in Kenya with Ethan? Could that trigger something in her?
Potentially, yes. Kenya is a place that it can be paradise. I'm not gonna lie, it's one of my favorite places in the world. But there's also there's unrest there, so it can potentially start triggering her.
It's also about what her and Ethan are going there to do, which is Doctors Without Borders, right?
Yes.
Which is potentially going to see, as you said, the unrest part and the not so nice parts of Kenya.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, as you said, there are some beautiful parts, and we will see that too, but I feel like the majority of, unfortunately, what they will see is the unrest and the
Yeah.
coolness of what it could be.
Yeah, I feel like that too. Which, not so nice for our girl, is it?
No. Which, brings up the question of how long will Kenya last? I know that that's a question on a lot of minds of the fans is, how long will she be there for? How many episodes will the arc be? Yada, yada, yada.
Or if there's even going to be an arc with Kenya. I mean, they have the potential to just go like, hey, 6 months have passed.
And that is one of my theories.
Oh, mine too. I at most we're gonna see an episode. I feel like at most we're gonna see an episode where she's not there for most of it, but she'll be back by the end of the first episode, or we'll know that she'll be back by the beginning of the second.
Yeah, that's my theory as well. My theory is I think maybe like at most 2 or 3 episodes that they'll have her away for whatever reason. But I do, like, if I had to pick an episode at a time and a place where she was going to come back, I do think most probably it will be at some point in the first episode.
Yeah. Or they're going to go the Hawai'i Five-0 route and have our boys go to Kenya because she's in trouble and she needs their help.
Which would be super cool. I would kind of love to see that.
Yes. I mean, we had the sister show go abroad to North Korea and, was it Afghanistan? To rescue Steve. Why not Magnum PI go to Kenya to rescue Higgins?
Yeah. And then, my only reason why I think that probably won't happen is because we just had the Higgins kidnapping episode. So unless they spin it that it's like maybe Ethan and Higgins calls in the guys for help, and then they run and go help her, and they all work together to save Ethan.
Yeah, let's hope it works. I do not want to see what happens if Ethan dies because
oh gosh, I don't think anybody with Higgins' best interests who wants to see Ethan die, because I think that would be a major setback for character development for her, just because of what happened to Richard and everything. Yeah. I feel like that would send her spiraling backwards, and I do not want to see that.
I mean, it could be interesting if it's done right, but I would hurt for the girl. I would hurt for your girl so bad.
I would hurt too. There would be actual tears for her.
Oh, yes. And I might be mourning Ethan too, because I really like the character.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I definitely think he's been like a great addition to the cast of characters, and JLE is amazing.
He's an absolute sweetheart, isn't he?
And he's just like, he's so great with the fans too. Like, he interacts so much on Twitter and Instagram, and he's he's playing Ethan so well with what he's given.
Yeah. If it was my call, I would say have them break up nicely, have them still be friends, and keep Ethan around.
I could see that potentially being a thing.
Yes.
I could see that potentially being a thing. And then I know that there's like a tendency that like to think along the lines of Higgins will be the one who breaks up with Ethan for whatever reasons.
I mean, that's something that could happen. I could see that happen. I could also see them breaking up over something like that. Or I could just, honestly, I can also see them be like, hey, we lived together for 6 months and really we're not working this nicely. Let's just be friends when we go back to Hawaii.
Yeah, I could see that. And that, to me, that is where we're going, like with the whole Kenya thing. I think it will make one or both of them realize that this relationship in the form that it is not what they want. that is not right for them. But that doesn't mean that they can't be friends, like you're saying.
Exactly. Let's have a very mature breakup, please.
And I think that they're capable of it.
Yes.
I think that they're in terms of their personalities, I feel like it's highly possible that the two of them could come to a mutual understanding.
I would say I would totally agree with you. I mean, even with the last bump in the road, as they called it, there was a lot of things going on, but you could see they're both usually mature when they're level-headed, which they weren't at that point, but yeah, usually mature, so the breakup might be mature and nice, if there is one. I mean, we never know.
It's true. Ethan could be here for the long haul. We have absolutely no idea.
Yeah.
And like you said, it could also be that potentially she comes back at the beginning of the 4th season and says, I broke up with Ethan, or I came home early because I got bored, and either she's still with him or she's not with him, or she just, or we start 6 months later and everything is fine in their relationship.
Yeah, we don't know. I'm not even sure if they know right now. It should be in the writer's room. So
I think that they I actually do think that they have an idea, because I think I read a tweet from the writer's room that said that they knew how they wanted season 4 to start, and they worked backwards for season 3. So they knew how they wanted season 3 to end, and they worked backwards to get there.
That's smart. That's really smart, actually.
Let me see, actually, if I can find the exact tweet. Let me see if I can pull it up on my phone, because I want to make sure that I'm giving you guys the right information.
I mean, even if it wasn't the right information, that would be a very smart approach on their part, which would, sometimes other shows, you can just tell they don't know how to get to what they think where they want to get, and if you have the place where you want to get and take it backwards, that's smart.
Great. Yeah, okay, so somebody had written to them saying, great episode, but where's the cliffhanger? And they wrote back, 1, thanks. 2, when CBS drama orders were reduced to 16 due to COVID, we suddenly didn't have enough episodes to build into a satisfying cliffhanger. We then decided to focus on how we wanted S4 to begin and worked backwards.
Smart, especially smart in regard of going forward in this situation where you really had to constrict everything. I feel like maybe our small storytelling fiasco of the White Van storyline actually may be due to that too, because I think we both know that the moment the fans have to ask whether the storyline is finished is
over.
Basically, the moment you should know that the story
wasn't that
spot with that,
or that were the people in the white van the same people that kidnapped Higgins. I mean, you knew that something fell a little flat there, and that the writing could have used a little bit of tweaking on that front. I
mean, they could have just had the guy drive the white van.
That's what I was just about to say, that especially, in that exchange scene where Magnum gave himself up for Higgins, they could have shown up in the white van at the very minimum.
Problem solved.
Right?
Even if some people don't get it, because some people will never get it, but then you at least have the visual reminder. Oh, hi, this is this guy.
Yeah, and I also think that another reason why it fell so flat was because they hyped it up so much. Like, at before the season even started, we got an article that says, Magnum is going to get tailed and he's going to be in a lot of danger, and it's going to cause him to lose sleep and all that. We did see him losing sleep. There were a couple of moments where he was very, very tired, but there was only like 1 or 2 moments where the white van was tailing him. and it didn't seem that menacing, right? And then we were told to believe that these same people that were just tailing Magnum, who were following him, were capable of kidnapping an ex-MI6 agent off of a horse, presumably, because we never saw it, right?
True, what happened?
And and obviously they weren't very good at it either, because she managed to escape. Not for very long.
Yeah.
She managed to escape, right?
Yeah. A lot of these things that were written before the show was airing was storylines that were resolved within one episode, or things that we saw in one episode and in this case carried over to another, but the visual representation of it didn't carry over into the other. Like, yeah, I'm pretty sure you can find a few white SUVs in Hawaii and just, have one in the background every time the Ferrari drives somewhere.
Yeah, and then when they were, like, I think it was in the second episode, I'm not 100% sure what episode it was in actually, where they were in the car and Magnum was sort of like, I think we have a tail, and we never actually really saw that it was the white SUV.
I think it was the first, actually.
It was the first? It could have been.
But yeah, yeah.
So there was a bit of a couple little plot holes here and there throughout the season.
I mean, let's spin it into a very positive moment. This is the moment where our fan fiction writers can shine and actually take it and make something really amazing out of it in their fan fiction, because for a lot of people that storyline is still wide open.
Yep. And people have, like, I mean, if you look through, like, Archive of Our Own, there's a lot of people who have taken the reins and have written some truly amazing storylines.
Yeah, I live for these fix-it kind of storylines where fans just disagree or have other ideas and just run with it.
Yeah, I mean, and I love in particular, like, with the white SUV and everything, I love when people make it Ivan, like me personally.
Oh, yes.
Because, I mean, to be honest with you, I never thought that it was Ivan. Like, I never had the idea that it was Ivan. But, how could you not think that when, at the end of the Ivan episode, Magnum says, "It's not over." And then we're teased with, crazy danger and the Higgins kidnapping and everything like that. And you're like, that has to be Ivan. Like, it has to be. And then it wasn't. And that's why I love it when people make it Ivan. And it just makes it...
Yeah. He was missing this season.
He was.
Because, as far as I know, Ivan was one of the main villains of the original. Basically, like Magnum PI's Wofat.
Yes.
And he was missing.
I feel like the overall big bad of this season was missing. Like, season 1, we sort of had Hannah, right? Like, she was the recurring big bad, even though we didn't know it all the way through. Season 2, did we have a big bad in season 2?
I mean, it was the introduction season of Ivan. We didn't have an overarching, looming big bad, I think.
Oh, but we kind of did, because Ivan was technically brought up in the third episode in Nights Last Forever, right? And then he wasn't resolved until I think it's like episode 15, 16. So in a way, there is kind of that overarching big bad. And I mean, I guess you could say the white SUV guys were that for this season.
Yeah, but they were done mid-season, so the rest of the season, there was something missing.
Yeah, it's like the back half of the season was more focused on, I think, the relationships more and less so about, like, the cases and the bad guys. We had tons of, like, Miggy conversations at the end of pretty much every episode in the back half of the season.
Yes. I think to agree with you, I think especially episode 15, was it episode 15 where it was really noticeable. I tried really hard to get invested in the case, but that case had virtually no stakes for anybody, so I was like, you could have just cut the entire case and the episode would have been fine because it was focusing on relationships, especially Magnum and Bernardo and Higgins, Ethan, and the boys. And the case itself, it could have just been gone and nobody would have minded, I think.
I feel like we could do a whole podcast episode just on like the conversations that they have at the end of every episode.
We should.
I think that would be a great idea. There you go, future episode idea, so stay tuned.
Yeah, there's a lot of things we can talk about.
Yeah, but it's true. I agree with you about 15. 15 was essentially, like you said, relationship. I mean, to be honest with you, did Magnum even... No, Magnum didn't even really work a case, right? Because he was with Bernardo. It was
there was
Higgy
a case.
C.
There was a case of the so-called cheating husband that ended in a dance studio.
Right. And then also Higgins and TC were working that case of the woman...
The murdered woman, yes.
Yeah. That was like, I would say that was the main case.
And you basically just highlighted what I said. The cases itself didn't have many stakes, so they were really forgettable.
Exactly. Like, I couldn't even remember, and it wasn't even that long ago. It was like, what, like 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago?
3 weeks ago, yeah.
And we're already forgetting, and it's interesting, because, like, you talk about memorable cases, it's like, you can remember cases back from season 1 if they're written well. Yeah,
if they're good. Like, I'm pretty sure everybody remembers Hannah. Pretty sure everybody remembers Ian. Nuzo's death is something everybody remembers.
Yeah.
Ivan.
Yeah.
But the lady whose name I even forgot, her death, I'm already not... Forgot her name. It
didn't hit home.
Yeah.
Yeah, it didn't hit home. And I feel like that's actually something to take note of in this particular season. I feel like yes, every other season has dealt with, the like backstories and relationships and everything, but this season in particular, I felt was more like there was a lot more of the relationship side of it.
Yeah, it could also be due to the
shortened run.
That we had 4 episodes less. We had to fit more development into a shorter season.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's why we had those like blunter conversations at the end, with like you're a big part of my life, you're my best friend. If Ethan doesn't accept you for who he is, like he's not the one.
Which might I add, he did accept her for who she is. He just didn't like the fact that she kept it secret, or basically lied to him for a certain amount of time.
Exactly. And then you have to think about, Madame and Venora's prediction about her going to like, has she changed that course now that she decided to go?
Or was our dear English
psychic?
Yes, thank you. Was our dear psychic just full of shit?
Possibly she was full of shit. I mean, that's what Magnum said at the end. Like, he was like, she just wanted to get a reading, and Higgins was like, I know, and then that's when she decided in that moment that she was going to tell Ethan.
So many things to go on, especially in future episodes. I can see we can talk about episodes really long time.
Oh, yes, we can.
A lot of stuff to analyze. So I think, how about we wrap this up and go for today?
And continue it soon.
On another day, on another episode. And do you want to plug your social media so people can find you?
Yeah, so my Insta is U2HiggyBaby, and that also is my Twitter, and it's actually like YOU to the number 2 and then Higgy Baby for both of them.
That's wonderful. So give our dear Liz a follow, give us a little follow to find us and continue to listen to us. This will be on YouTube, Spotify, and if I manage to upload it again, at least parts of it will be on Instagram, on our Instagram, Magnum PI Podcast. And I'm pretty sure we'll see each other for another episode, and we'll see Liz for another episode, I think, right?
Definitely.
Wonderful. So thank you for being our guest. Thank you for talking about why we love Magnum PI.
Thanks for having me.
Always, you're an amazing guest. Thank you.
Thank you.
So bye, people.
So, this was the first episode of Let's Talk About Magnum PI. I hope you had fun. You can find us on YouTube and Spotify, and you can find us and follow us on Instagram and Twitter under the handle Magnum PI Podcast. I hope to see you around for the next episode, which will cover the topic of the first episode of Season 1 of Magnum PI. See you around, guys!